Hi, I'm Denise Ortiz of MindBodyHealing.biz. I'd like to welcome you to the August Spiritual Gathering. Thank you very much for coming. I'm so glad to see that you're here. For those that may be new to the group, I'd like to explain a little bit about what my goal, mission, and purpose is. I am bringing as many different people on to teach you, to help you get in touch with, and to learn about anything that will help you get through these times. We all know there's a lot of crazy energy going on in this world. Some of it is chaotic. Some of us feel scary. Some of it feels a fear coming about us, but I'm here to help you balance, to feel empowered, to feel comfortable, to feel relaxed, and definitely to release the fears. I've got a lot of speakers from a variety of subjects. We have shamans, we have doctors, we have healers, we have psychics. We'll talk about crystals that can help you, balancing the chakras in your body, different foods that you can eat, Ayurvedic medicine, and all other alternatives. So if you're new to us, please check out my website for a list of all upcoming and previous speakers that we've had available. Every one of these videos is posted on my YouTube channel and on my website. We also have a Facebook group, and all of this information will be mentioned at the end of the video. I'm also giving classes on different platforms now, and I have different MP3s that are available that you can listen to help calm, relax, and reset and balance your body. Because one of the most important things we need to do is take care of ourselves. We have to help each other through these times. If you see somebody that's stressed, maybe get together with them and take a walk on the beach. Simple things like breathing exercises. There's a variety of things that you can do to make your life easier and make you feel better just all around. And now I'd like to talk a little bit more about the Ayurvedic medicine that Samantha Parker, our guest for today, will be speaking about in just a little bit. Now, some of you may have known about a lot of the earlier medical issues that I went through at the beginning of the year. Suffice it to say, our medical system is not up to par. I admire the doctors and the nurses who are working very, very hard and doing the best that they can with what they have to do. However, we are looking for alternatives to help us through. If I had just gone what they said, I would have had an unneeded operation for a misdiagnosis and suffered more than I needed to. But by using holistic medicine and alternative in conjunction with some other good doctors that I found in the system, I was able to get through with supplements, change of diet, exercise, meditation. All of these things combined can help to make you better. So you can continue down the path that you're doing. I'd never tell anyone to stop what they're doing, but there's nothing wrong with supplementing it with some alternatives that have proven to be known, such as Ayurvedic medicine. Now, Ayurvedic medicine, you may not have heard about it. You may heard little things about it, but I guarantee something that you've come across has been part of Ayurvedic medicine because it's been around for over 5,000 years. It comes out of India. It is an ancient science that teaches about the balance of body between self-care and rejuvenation. As we go through things, our body gets bogged down. Toxins, chemicals, the air pollution, even stressors in our body. The stress that we create causes reactions in our body. All of these need to be cleared out sometimes, and this is something that Ayurvedic medicine can help you with as well. Ayurveda is considered a form of medical care and equal to conventional Western medicine. Traditional Chinese medicine, naturopathic medicine, and homeopathic medicine are all based on the Ayurvedic principles. And you could begin doing little things like what I've learned about raising yourself up in the morning, engaging in self-practice care such as yoga, taking a warm shower, and then changing it to cool water to help circulation in the bodies. These are simple things that you can do, and you can learn more about them as we hear Samantha talk about it. So Samantha Parker, she is opening up her practice here in Ocean Isle Beach in North Carolina. She's an Ayurvedic doctor and a biodynamic craniosacral therapist. Her education includes Ayurveda, the foundation of all medical systems, with clinical work that she did at IAM Hospital in Bengaluru, India. She worked with massage work, body work, myofascial release, and craniosacral work. She works with adults, children, and infants and families by helping developing a lifestyle of nutrition and treatment plans as defined by Ayurveda, with supportive therapeutics from a variety of influences. Her cases range from those with ADHD, joint degeneration, GI disorders, sleep problems, autoimmune disorders, and most commonly, pain. Samantha will speak on how she integrates the medicine from the East with the medicine from the West, which she does with the craniosacral and the myofascial release in a massage therapy. She'll also share some of her case studies on how approaching the imbalances through diet, lifestyle, and the multiple therapies was able to return balance to the mind and body. Now, I'll have the information at the very end of this. Her website is Anjali. It's www.anjali.life. And you'll be able to find information on her, get a consultation if you wish. And right now, I would like to bring in Samantha Parker to tell us more about the Ayurvedic medicine. Samantha.
Hi, thank you, Denise, for allowing me to speak today on Ayurveda and biodynamic craniosacral therapy. These are two therapies that I use with almost all of my clients. It's a little bit about me. I'm an Ayurvedic doctor. I have over 5,500 hours of formal education in Ayurveda, as well as clinical work in an Ayurvedic hospital in Bangalore, India. I'm also a registered biodynamic craniosacral therapist. And what does this mean? Means that the program that I was involved in, it was 2 years, a little over 700 hours of study. I'm also a licensed massage and bodywork therapist in Connecticut and in North Carolina. And that is 650 hours of study. So I opened my practice in Connecticut in 2012, and I've been seeing clients there since then. And I just recently closed that practice and moved to Ocean Isle and have opened my clinic in North Carolina, in Ocean Isle Beach. So Denise has asked me to speak a little bit about what I'm bringing to this area. So I'm going to give a 20-minute talk, just going over some brief introductions to those two things. I'm going to also share a case study that illustrates how I integrate those two therapies with clients. And then I'll leave you with some Ayurvedic tips. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. So this is my clinic in Ocean Isle Beach, North Carolina. Within here, there's therapy rooms. I also have a kitchen on site. This kitchen is where I'll be working individually with clients on how to turn food into medicine. I'll also be holding some classes, workshops through Zoom and in person on making different types of food medicinal for different disorders, and also just for fun. So what is Ayurveda? So Ayurveda is a system of medicine that originated thousands of years ago. It's actually the foundation of every form of medicine that exists today, has some type of roots in this medicine. And Ayurveda is defined by examining everything in our environment. That includes weather, season, job, the people that we surround ourselves with, And this can be things that some of this can be like with a job that maybe you had at a different time of life. Maybe if you're not working now, still the impacts of these things on us and how our body holds on to these impacts is one of the things that Ayurveda looks at. It also looks at what is happening inside of the body. How is our mind working? How are we thinking? Is there panic or anxiety or worry or fear? Or are we filled with joy? And do we experience happiness on a daily basis? It also looks at what do we do? Like what's our daily routine like? What are the things we're eating and drinking? What kind of habits are we experiencing currently? Like what things are contributing to our health? What things might be contributing to a state of disease? It also looks at how we are able to communicate. And this can mean verbally, can mean just body language, physically. How are we communicating? What is the outward expression of ourselves? So it uses all of this information that is gathered on everything we think and do. And it uses this to determine what things are going to promote harmony and ease and balance in the body and mind, and what things are not going to promote that. So what are things that are promoting dis-ease, and what are things that would not promote dis-ease and imbalance in a person? And Ayurveda uses these very specific tools to determine that. And they're called gunas. You can also think of these as characteristics or qualities. And everything that exists in this universe can be defined by gunas. An example, which is listed here, of gunas, there's actually 20 in total. But here's just a little brief example of what gunas look like. So if we're feeling really heavy in the body, if there's some chronic fatigue, just feeling like some lethargy, like there's no motivation to do things, we're going to look at what's contributing to that in the diet. How is the body being influenced by habits, things we're consuming and surrounding ourselves with to that heavy feeling? And then it's going to look to bring balance back by doing the opposite guna, which is introducing lightness. So how can we create lightness in the body? And that is going to be expressed through changing diet some. It might be expressed about changing some habits, some things that we're doing in life, surrounding ourselves with, to just bring balance back. Also, if we look at hot and cold, so if I see someone that comes to me and maybe there's a rash, or they're experiencing hot flashes, or maybe they're experiencing diarrhea. All of these things are being expressed from a place of heat. There's some heat, excess heat in the body. So I'm going to look at certain gunas of the characteristics of certain things that they can be eating and doing that are going to cool the body off some. So that might be introducing certain cooling foods to the body, cooling foods like maybe cilantro or cucumbers or coconut. These might be things I would be introducing to the body to bring some balance back to all of that heat. So gunas are very helpful in helping us define not only what is going on inside of our bodies, but how we are reacting to what's happening outside of our bodies, and how, when creating a health plan, we have to understand those gunas that are present so that we can be introducing things that are the opposite to bring balance back. So if we look at an example of gunas and what this might look like, in life. Here's an example. We have a climate here, very cold looking climate, a snowy day. All of these people are exposed externally to the same environment, to snow, to probably below freezing temperatures. However, so they're dressed very differently. Some have boots and coats and hats, and every part of their body looks covered, is protected by this cold. And you've got another person here in the foreground who is dressed like a summer. So like they're not affected by that cold. So when we are looking at this, everybody's exposed externally to the same gunas, but what is different is how each is being expressed internally. What's going on internally? So if all of these people were to develop maybe the flu or a cold, how the path back to homeostasis from that illness is going to look different, because the internal gunas, the internal environment for all of these people is very different. It's very unique to their to how they're experiencing life. So this is one of the benefits of understanding that individual quality that Ayurveda brings to medicine, in looking at not really just treating the symptom, but really looking deep inside the person to see what the best path will be to bring balance back to each individual. So when we look at gunas, we also look at the gunas of disorders and disease to help us determine how to bring balance back. So if we consider a disease like heartburn and how the qualities of this disease might be reflected on a food plan, we look at, here's a disorder that actually has a very distinct burning sensation from the gastric acid aggravating the GI tract. So in a case involving this, we're going to use food to cool the tissues in the body, because if the tissues continue to be exposed to this heat over time, you can begin to experience some deterioration of the tissue in the channels that are being impacted. And this can show up as something later, like an ulcer. So when the body is experiencing excess heat, we introduce things that are cooling. There is cooling breath work, cooling types of pranayama. There are cooling foods. There are cooling medicinal waters to drink. There are cooling meditations to do, and there's cooling activities that can be done too. So all of these things would be looked at and introduced to a person that might be exhibiting this disorder. So an example of a disease that would have qualities that are the opposite to heartburn would be a disease like COVID. So this is a disease that usually presents with more cooling and heavy qualities in the body. So one of the things that we would do is remove foods that have the same gunas as the disease. So we're going to take foods out like dairy and wheat and meats, and we might add things in that have some more warmth to them. And that might be something like ginger or tulsi, cumin seed and leeks, or even like watercress. These could all be things that might show up on a food plan for someone that is suffering with this particular disorder. So we also have to consider the current season and how the gunas, the characteristics of that season, are influencing what is happening in the body. So an example of this, if we use the upcoming fall seasonal juncture, some of the qualities that we see in this season are things drying out. So we see this on the leaves on the trees. If anybody walks around after, the leaves start to fall, we hear crunchiness, we hear dryness, and all of this is being displayed externally outside of the body. We might even feel a little bit of dryness in the air. And internally, this can be affecting us by starting to feel some dryness in the skin. We might also start to hear a little bit of crepitus in the joints from the synovial fluid becoming a little bit less and also a little bit dried up. So these are all things that are indicating that what is happening, what we are experiencing outside, how it's impacting us internally. So foods that we might want to avoid in the fall because they also have the same qualities, the same gunas as what's happening in fall are things that are very drying. And these are foods like popcorn and potato chips and chia seeds and raw vegetables. We would want to look at diet and start to remove these things so that our body doesn't get overwhelmed with those characteristics and start to create imbalance. So foods that we really should be favoring in the fall include seasonal foods like squashes. That's the biggest one. Sweet potatoes are also a wonderful one in this season. We also want to look at steaming our food versus roasting or grilling, because roasting and grilling can be very drying, whereas steaming is going to add so much more moisture. And that's one thing that our body is really craving in this particular season. So it's really important in these seasonal junctures. Ayurveda looks at these particular times of year to really look deeper into what is happening in the deep layers of the body, because it's during this time when the body actually naturally goes through a cleansing process without us doing anything. It's just naturally there's a cleansing process going on. And it's one of the reasons why in this particular time of year, sometimes we might be overwhelmed with fatigue because there's so much energy going to this internal cleansing that we know we don't have anything to do with. Our body's just doing it naturally. So when it goes through this process, and if an imbalance is present, it shows up in these seasonal shifts because we begin to experience a lot of discomfort in these shifts. So it's really important when we go through seasonal junctures, fall and spring are the two biggest, to really pay attention and recognize what the messages that the body is telling us. And really pay attention, because if we can address something when it's in a very small state, a minor state, we can bring balance back, bring the body back into that state of homeostasis much quicker than if we ignore it and just keep pushing it in the background and not give it the attention that it's asking for when it first starts to present and become a problem. So in Ayurveda, one of the other critical factors, in addition to the gunas, is we're always looking at the state of the gut. Because what we eat and how we eat are critical factors in healing in Ayurveda. And one of the main philosophies is this understanding that every single disease that exists began in the gut. And that includes disorders like back pain, fibromyalgia, joint disorders, asthma, skin disorders, pretty much anything you can name. It all begins in the gut. And it's why the gut is always a critical part of the plan of how we bring healing and holistic wholeness back to the body. So in Ayurveda, when we're determining what foods go on a healing food plan and which we leave off, we have to consider what is the strength of the gut? What is the current balance of the person? What's the state of the gunas? So all of these things are addressed when looking at imbalance in a person. So in Ayurveda, we can't address the gut without also addressing the mind. because the two are intimately connected, and healing is really never complete until we address both. Mental states such as stress, anxiety, negative emotions, they all have a huge impact on our ability to digest the food we eat, to digest a lot of our mental processes, the thoughts that are coming in. All of this can be linked back to the state of our gut health. One of the biggest issues that we see when the mind is unsettled, it actually can be affecting the strength of our gut and really create some weakness in that particular organ. And if our gut health becomes compromised, we eventually begin to experience symptoms of imbalance in other places of the body. So conversely, when our minds are calm and balanced, we experience optimal digestion, healthy sleep patterns, healthy bowel movements, and we feel positive and optimistic about life. So how do we go about settling the mind while also engaging the mind in the healing process? And the number one way that I use is meditation. Because meditation is an extremely powerful way to settle the mind. So this is a labyrinth, and in India, labyrinths are commonly found on the grounds of Ayurvedic hospitals because they recognize and incorporate the state of the mind into the healing plans. It's just an integral part of the healing process to incorporate the state of the mind. But for those of us who don't have access to a labyrinth and are not meditators, there are wonderful options online that we can access to help us begin the process of settling the mind. And one of those is a type of meditation called Yoga Nidra. So that is it's something you can find on YouTube. There are lots of different therapists that offer Yoga Nidra guided meditations, and that's a wonderful one that I use with a lot of clients. But when I do see someone in my office and we are getting started on a new food plan to address health concerns, to get the body to start moving in that direction, one of the primary therapies that I use is biodynamic craniosacral therapy. And this is a therapy that was developed in osteopathic medicine and has a profound effect on reestablishing a healthy nervous system and calming the mind. And there's now research and data that has been published recently by the National Institutes of Health and the Joint Commission of Physicians saying that the first line of defense for pain include therapies like acupuncture, craniosacral therapy, and mindfulness, these being go-to treatments for pain. So there's a wonderful video that I would like to share on what biodynamic craniosacral therapy is. It's only 3 minutes long, but it really gives a wonderful overview of what is happening in this therapy and why this therapy is so critical in beginning to heal the body. So I'm going to play it, maybe. Let's see. There we go.
We experience all events in our lives physically, even before they take emotional form. We're dynamic living organisms, always in touch with our internal and external environments and responding to our experiences. This is largely thanks to our central nervous system, which keeps our health in balance. The central nervous system is encased in our skull and spine and communicates with and regulates our organs and other processes. When we're functioning smoothly, we call this homeostasis. But this balance can be upset when we experience stress, be it physical, emotional, or psychological. Physiological reactions help us deal with stress quickly and effectively. And once the stress is over, the body can return to a state of homeostasis. But sometimes we can be overwhelmed by a stressful event or a build-up of stressful experiences. In this case, the body doesn't get the chance to return to homeostasis, and the stress response stays switched on. You start to get a breakdown in communication between the central nervous system, organs, and other processes, which can lead to ill health. Many of us are good at separating ourselves from our experiences. We ignore aches and pains until they become part of the fabric of our lives. Biodynamic craniosacral therapists are trained to listen to your body through light therapeutic touch. They listen to specific rhythmic motions expressed throughout the tissues and fluids of the body to identify areas under stress. The practitioner helps you release long-held patterns of stress to restore whole body integration and improve physical, psychological, and emotional balance. The role of the therapist is not to apply force to correct irregularities in the body. Instead, light contact is made with areas of the skeletal system. When in therapeutic relationship with the practitioner, the bones, joints, and relational connective tissue are able to release tension. Your health is organized by an innate intelligence. We help facilitate these forces when they become inertial, creating safe, favorable conditions that promote self-healing and vitality.
Okay. So it's pretty amazing. That's such a great video. I love sharing that with clients who are not familiar with that therapy. But you can see that our nervous system really can be the greatest pharmacist for our body. But if it remains in that fight or flight state and our cortisol is just never shut off, it can also become the cause of our illness. Hypertension, weight gain, sleep disturbance, anxiety and depression and inflammation are just a few of the effects we can experience when high levels of cortisol are just consistently present in the body. So addressing our nervous system and calming the mind is a really critical part of the healing process. In probably 99% of the people that I see, I find past traumas and current stress are the two biggest factors that impact a client's current health. Most of the time, it's almost always, the clients don't even realize how much a past event is impacting what is happening in their body currently. But it's really through these sessions that when the body starts to release and there's a lightness that is felt, and there's movement in areas where there's been stagnation from held places of trauma, that a person can really have a renewed sense of life. It's very common after the biodynamic craniosacral therapy sessions for a client to really feel a certain almost exhaustion. And this is because the nervous system has moved into that parasympathetic state, that rest and digest state that the person has not been experiencing on a daily basis. So in moving towards health holistically, Ayurveda and biodynamic craniosacral therapy are really two powerful medicines that can be supportive in creating new patterns in health for an individual. And so I just want to share a case study with you. And this is a case study that involved a 53-year-old female that was experiencing hip pain consistently for 2 years. She also shared that she wore a night guard for her teeth grinding that she had started wearing in her 30s. So, whenever there is hip pain or jaw pain, like TMJ, it's really important to address both because there is actually a deep front fascia tissue line that connects the muscles in the jaw and the neck to the muscles in the pelvis. This visceral connection, like this, is actually can be identified throughout our body with so many different organs that we don't realize how we might be experiencing pain in one part of the body that is actually rooted in a very different part of the body. And in Ayurveda and in biodynamic craniosacral work, there's typically a very a common look to particular organs, or there's some type of synchronicity between two. Here you can see the larynx and the uterus really share anatomically a very similar look. And this is also kind of suggesting this visceral connection between these two organs. And this is something that Ayurveda uses in a lot of its healing. And it even looks at these similarities in plants and how certain plants have an affinity for certain parts of the body based on the way they are shaped. So with this particular client, what we did is we created her food plan based on the gunas of what she was experiencing. She also began doing nighttime yoga nidra, recording that she found, and she started doing this about an hour before bedtime. Her therapy with me consisted of biodynamic craniosacral sessions. And we also did some myoskeletal work in releasing fascia and doing some actual manipulation between the pelvis and the jaw on the table. She also started doing a therapy that I advised her on called Gandusha. And Gandusha is an Ayurvedic therapy. It's holding a very certain specific medicated Ayurvedic oil. It's medicated with probably, I think there's about 15 different plants in this particular oil that I used with her, and holding it in the mouth. And then she would hold it in as long as she could. 5 minutes was, I think, her max. And then she would spit it out and then brush her teeth. And she did this every single day. And this worked on releasing a lot of that tension in the jaw area. She was also able to give up her mouth guard after 6 months of consistent effort in creating these new patterns in her body. And her hip pain was no longer a constant burden, but it was something she was still working on. And she began a practice. We did some therapy. She did therapy with me called Abhyanga, and I used a medicated oil with her, along with some heat and steam. And we used this oil and this therapy together. And then I had her repeating that on her own at home. And that was through the winter months, which gave her a lot of support. So it was a really successful case study. She was thrilled with it, especially not to have to wear her night guard anymore, and to really feel like she started to have some tools to understand how the foods that she was eating was contributing to her problems and making things worse. It really opened her up to understand how also the external environment was contributing to what she was dealing with. So I want to leave you with 3 Ayurvedic food guidance tips. So these are things that I would tell any client, regardless of their gunas. I would always give this recommendation. So the number 1, to always eat their fruit alone, never mix it with other foods. And this is because fruit digests very quickly and especially against other foods that we come up against. And this, if we mix it with foods that are harder and take longer to digest, it causes fermentation in the gut, and it can cause toxicity in the channels. Also, avoiding carbonated beverages. This is because this is very aggravating to the nervous system. And while I didn't get into the elements in this talk, one of the other big components of Ayurveda is understanding elements and doshas. And these carbonated beverages have a lot of air and ether, and these particular elements have a very significant effect on the nervous system. Also, never consuming cold beverages. I would say that ever, but especially during our meals, because it disturbs our gut's ability to digest the food we're trying to eat. And it actually caused like a little bit of a cooling off of the gut. And we really want heat in the gut when we're digesting food, because that's how nutrients get broken down to their smallest form and then are able to travel to parts of the body that are looking for those nutrients. So that is my talk. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can email me. I think Denise has that information. I would love to hear from you. You can get on my mailing list and learn about any upcoming workshops or talks that I'm going to be doing, either through Zoom or in the area. So I'm going to stop my share. Okay. Thank you for all tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you. Bye.
Wow, the information that you give is just so fascinating, Samantha. It's so wonderful that you're able to reach out to everybody and show them the alternatives that are available to help them. And with diet and food, I mean, you're enjoying life, you're enjoying things. You don't have to take away from what you're doing, but change it and supplement it to have even better things coming into your body. And I just can't thank you enough for being on the show with us today and sharing all of your information. And like I mentioned to everyone, her information will be at the end of this video and in the comments below, so you can get in touch with her and find out more about the work that she does and how she can help you. So with that, I want to thank everyone for being here today. And please remember to check my website, mindbodyhealing.biz, where you can find information on events, speakers that I have coming up, classes that I'm offering, places where you can get MP3s to listen to just relax, and with YouTube, where you can find all of the videos that we have done in the past. Some future speakers that we have coming up is Chris Gordon will be here, and she'll be talking about the chakras, telling you how to keep them in balance and align them. In November, we have Suzanne Sweeney, who will be talking about optimizing your health. She is an energy medicine person that also specializes in Tai Chi and Qi Gong. And in December, I will be your host, and we will have some surprises. So please tune in December. And again, you could check us through the website and check us through our Facebook page of who's coming up. And I hope to see you in the future. And remember, most of all, take care of yourself. Self-care is not something that is considered selfish. It's considered mandatory. You need to do self-care during these times. So please take the time, share this information with other people, and I'll see you next month. Thank you. Have a great day.